Good evening, everybody. Please just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly whilst I share my screen. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. I'm just going to share my screen quickly and then we can. Can you see my screen? Okay, so session's recorded. Okay, firstly, welcome to SPCM 7321. So today's session is going to be a full introduction, setting the scene for the rest of semester. So we're not going to go over content today. I do have a lot that I want to go through in terms of what is the expectation of this semester, what is the pacer looking like, as well as what is the module outline looking like. Okay, so we're going to start off with an introduction. Obviously the pacer and then what to expect this semester. I'm just going to change things around as we go along. Okay. So just from an introduction perspective, my name is Nirsa Haricharan. I currently reside in Durban, obviously the heart and hub of logistics and a little bit of supply chain. Um, I'm currently a regional manager for a global logistics company. So dealing with everything from courier, air freight, sea freight, road freight, international courier, logistics and warehousing. I've got now almost 14 years of experience in this specific industry. I have come from a commercial background, meaning sales, retention, account management, all the way up into, from a head of sales, management, as well as regional manager. Um, Also looking at things from a very different perspective in terms of operations. So from an operations perspective, whether it's route planning or logistics and warehousing, looking at different API systems or warehouse management systems, I've basically been involved in all of that. So my lectures are going to be very different. As much as we're going to spit out some theory based on what we need to cover from a module outline, I try and bring it back down to a level of understanding of sharing stories. So stories that I have learned from my own experience over the years. So try to explain it in the best possible way so you can understand it and carry it through from an application perspective in your assessments. I currently have 2 master's degrees, so master's in supply chain, as well as a NQF level 9 from GIBS. That's more from an international executive development program. I've listed my contact details here below. Okay, so this is my email address for Varsity College or IIE, as well as my direct contact number. So I'm available on WhatsApp, I'm available on call, whatever you need, in terms of during the semester. I'm basically there not as your lecturer, but as your support system to basically take you over the line. So with VC itself, I'm in my 3rd year of teaching with them. So for the last 2 years, every semester I've carried modules from first year right down to postgrad. So I do have some experience. Secondly, my students do pretty well. I try to help and guide as much as possible, whether it's assisting with creating more national support sessions, wherever I sort of see a lack, whether it's from an ICE task or an assignment, I try and use that in a briefing in the next session so that I can help you as a student to understand it a whole lot better. Okay, so just from an expectation perspective, the first thing is I posted an announcement regarding the WhatsApp group. Please join that. If you haven't done so, do that tonight. I like to use WhatsApp more so than emails. I post on ARC quite often, but as an announcement, but WhatsApp always keeps it going. I do work a full-time job, so sometimes I may not always get to respond to you in that minute or hour, but I will definitely 100% respond to you in that day. So we use the group chat a lot from a communication perspective, whether it is someone is not understanding a specific thing in the module or the module outline, whether you need clarity on an assessment, whether it's an ICE task or an assignment, or even if it means you needing to understand sort of the type of examination or sort of looking at past papers, what is, what to expect. I'll put it out there right from the beginning. I do not set the examination, nor have I set the assignments. However, the best I can do is guide you in terms of previous past papers, and we sort of run through that in our national support session closer towards the end of semester. Okay. Is there any questions so far? If I'm going too fast or if you have a question, I need you to probably just unmute yourself and talk because I can't always see with the screen being shared, okay? The next one is get your textbook in as early as you possibly can in the semester. I've listed the textbook down there. It's also provided in your module outline. This is going to help you tremendously. I've had students in the past who did not have their textbooks in and they were literally crying for a textbook the week of examination. That doesn't work. And those are the students where I see their marks not standing out, in terms of the group level. So please make sure that you get your textbook in as early as possible. This is what's going to help you. As I told you, I am not a traditional lecturer. So as much as we go through content, we go through the stuff that's in the module outline. There's also stuff that's not in the module outline that you probably would want to read over just so that you can understand things a whole lot better. Okay. The next one is you need to learn and understand the difference between theory and application as early in the semester as possible. This module, similar to the other supply chain modules, is not a cram the night before and spit out in the paper. It is a lot of it has to do with application. So for you having to understand the concepts, whether it's a Porter's forces or Muizenberg theory, whatever it is, you need to understand the theory, and a case study will 100% be in every single assessment. So it's you applying the theory into an application, providing outside examples. So there's a lot of prescribed or recommended readings that is provided in the module outline. It's always nice to expand your knowledge a little bit more, whether it's from a global trade perspective, so maybe reading Google Scholar articles, whether it's just reading, the newspaper, basically. It does help a whole lot because you understand different businesses and corporates and what they push through in terms of their supply chain. Needless to say, every business has a supply chain. Different businesses have multiple supply chains. So it's understanding specific businesses, whether it's a company like Apple or Microsoft or PepsiCo. It's understanding what their supply chains are and using or bringing those in as examples when you are running a case study or having to answer a case study. Okay. Next up is making sure all your assessments are done, submitted on time. I've had numerous students in the past that would submit assignments a day late or 2 days late. You automatically get penalized. If you are a minute over 23:59, you get penalized. If you're 24 hours later than that, you basically get a 0 on your assessment. So please make sure I understand technology can fail us at times. There can be technical difficulties when you're submitting. So make sure you are submitting on way before time so that your submission does record in as early as possible. So you can see I'm using this session to sort of pave the way because initially at the beginning, at the start of a semester and at the very first lecture, you have a good big complement of students, and as the semester progresses, the attendance does drop. So I want to try and cover as much as possible in the first session. Second or next, get your referencing guide in order. So understand from the IIE referencing, which is very similar to Harvard referencing style, make sure you understand how to reference, whether it's in-text referencing or in-text referencing. The way the marking is being set out, whether it's an assignment or whether it's an action examination, is fine. You don't need to reference. But in an assignment itself, you need to have in-text referencing as well as end-of-text referencing, and everything needs to match, number one. And number two, you're going to have to submit a Turnitin. So we check for plagiarism, and I check the reports for plagiarism, just so you know. And then thirdly, you need to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So I've had students previously that had gotten penalties of 5, 10, up to 15% penalties just because they quoted an entire paragraph and they forgot to tell me who said what. So please make sure you are referencing. Let's just get that out right at the earliest, the onset of the semester. So if you are unsure, visit the library and then you'll be able to understand it a little bit better. Okay. Next one. All of the marking is done by myself, right? The deadline is generally about 7 to 8. It's actually not that long. Sometimes it can be 6 days, 5 days after the due date for the assignment, as well as the ICE tasks. So have that expectation. However, what I normally do is I give you a progress report. So after 2 or 3 days after submission, I will say I'm 50% there, or 3 days later, then I'll tell you, okay, guys, I'm done. All your results are now featuring on ARC. Please go and have a look. So when it comes to the assignment itself, I give feedback on wherever I feel that the student lacked. So if it's, let's say, question 1.1, and they asked you about spatial warehousing, and you gave me a very generic answer, and it was an application question, I will tell you, you covered the theory, therefore you got 2 marks. However, you are lacking in this application, therefore you have lacked in 4 marks or 5 marks or whatever that is. So I will give you an indication of where you are scoring low. I wouldn't give you feedback on every single question, but I will give you feedback on the ones that I know is lacking an answer, or that's where you're lacking a mark. On your ICE task, I don't give you feedback specifically on that specific question. I may give you an overall feedback. If I don't give you feedback at all, it means that you are thumbs up and you're good to go. But if I do give you some sort of feedback, just so you know, it's a very generalized feedback based on the entire ICE task. Okay. All of our lectures will be recorded. I have a YouTube channel, so I will post the YouTube channel link at the end of the semester with this recording. Every week, or every second week when we have a lecture, I will be posting that as well on YouTube. You will see an announcement from me on the lecture slides, and then and in that announcement, you will have the me telling you that the link is on YouTube, or the recordings on YouTube. So we would like you, to check it out if you did miss the session. Okay. When we go over the PACER, you will see that I've already listed the ICE task dates. And basically what happens with the ICE task is I only release an ICE task to you a week before the deadline. So if, for instance, an ICE task is due next week, Thursday, I will release it this afternoon for you to then have 1 week to conclude that. I will only do the ICE task or release the ICE task basically if we have concluded or close to have concluded that specific module that of which the ICE task is featured. Try to keep to deadlines. Try to avoid cramming at the end of semester. So basically what happens is the deadlines that I've set out in the PACER is deadlines that I would like for you to meet, meaning that it would be easier. We just finish a module, you then do an ICE task, you move on to a next module, you then do an ICE task, etc. While it's fresh in your head, you can then complete it. A lot of times what happens is students wait to the end of semester because they don't follow my soft deadline. They now wait for the hard deadline to come in, where I'm telling you it needs to be in by the 14th of May 2026, and everyone's now cramming on the 13th and the 14th of May to have these ICE tasks done. Remember, it does feature part of your CAS mark, so it is very important that you do complete the ICE task. Don't leave any ICE task undone, because you basically lose marks towards your CAS. So please make sure that it's done. But if for some reason you are a bit delayed in completing an ICE task, remember it is a soft deadline. There will be a hard deadline at the end of semester, but my advice is keep to the deadline that is set out in the PACER, because this is going to help you. Okay. Also, please regularly check your announcements. I post anything between 2 to 3 announcements every single week, whether it is a newspaper article or some journal that I would want you to read, or some advice that I'm giving you for an assignment that's coming up. Whatever the case may be, just check your announcements, because I do try to post there as regularly as possible. So as per our timetable, we basically have a session every second week. If we do run out of time completing any learning units at all, I will do a recording to be submitted in that week that we don't have a session. Okay, but the PACER is developed so that it allows for enough time for every single learning unit or every single theme, whatever the case may be. However, in between, when we don't have sessions, you'll see in the PACER that I did pop in a few sessions there, because it just makes sense. Sorry, apologies, that's my dog. Apologies for that. Okay, so is there any questions so far before we jump onto the PACER? Nothing. Okay, so let me move on to the next one, which is the PACER. So this is a PACER that I'm going to do for you basically before every assignment. So just before we conclude, like the last learning unit that's due for that specific assignment, I will have a PACER done and sent to you. Just so that you know, for question 1.1, it's sitting in learning unit 1, theme 2, page this. This is the topic. So it just makes things a whole lot easier when it does come to you physically doing the assignment. I try and use the session before the assignment that's due. I try to use that session as a support session, like at least the first 20 minutes of it, where we can run through the assignment quickly and understand it together. I obviously don't give you the answers, but I sort of put you onto the right path. And basically you would do the rest. Okay, so PACER, as we can see, you have 4 ICE tasks for the semester, which has a 10% contribution in totality. So that's 2.5% per ICE task. I would love for you to do all ICE tasks. It is a huge benefit from a CAS perspective that you do complete all 4 ICE tasks. Then you have 2 assignments. Okay, so I haven't gotten my hands on the updated PAS as yet. So once I do, I will create a version 2 of this PACER. But the first one is your assignment 1, which is 30% of your CAS, and that features learning unit 1 to 3. And then your second assignment, which is 25%, and that features learning unit 1 to 4. And then your examination features all 6 learning units in there. Okay. So basically, this is what your PACER would look like. This is subject to change. It is not 100% final. Once I have assignment deadlines and if we need to change things around, I will 100% change it. I also realized that I didn't add in which days will be pre-recorded sessions. As much as I have it in the PACER, it's not a meeting request that I will send to you. It's a recorded session that I would do and then share for you to obviously watch at your own convenience. So obviously today is a complete fully introduction session with us. I did see on the timetable that we have a session booked for next week. So if anyone knows, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see a session there for next week. So we will start our module as a live lecture next week. And then obviously the weeks preceding thereafter, I've got all of the themes. I put in a national support session here on the 16th of April. I'm probably going to add another one just before your second assignment. I may have to bring this up or take it down, but you will have 2 support sessions in with a content lecture. um, it just helps, especially when you're writing and doing an assignment or writing an examination. So your last lecture is scheduled for the 28th of May 2026, and that session is what we're going to be doing as a Q&A or a national support session. I will give you, maybe prompt you some questions. You can then answer back in session. I try and bring in some polls during the semester just to test your knowledge on the previous session, just answering questions as to what works, what doesn't work, etc. So you have 4 ICE tasks, and these are the dates for now. You've got 19th of March, 16th of April, 30th of April, and the 14th of May. You'll see it sort of features after a specific learning unit. So this ICE task will be basically after learning unit 1 and 2. This one will be after learning unit 3. This one will be after learning unit 4. May even have learning unit 3 in there. And the last one will be after learning unit 5. Normally, sort of 2 weeks before semester ends or lectures end is when the hard deadline sits. So I am putting the 14th of May as the last ICE task. I may have to bring it up, but I'll only confirm that once I know for sure when the hard deadline of the ICE tasks are. Okay. Is hear this on ARC as well, but is everybody quite happy so far with everything that they're seeing? Okay, perfect. You, which is the module outline. So you can see, I mean, even during our first lecture, you'll see that my personality is not one of dictatorship. I am not you. So if there's anything from a support perspective, I'm there to help, okay? So I did share the module outline on ARC already. If you haven't yet downloaded it yourself. So I'm not going to go over this stuff, which I'm sure you kind of know already. So as you can see, this is a prescribed textbook, and then they've also given you recommended reading for you to do. However, I'll also share my own recommended reading, whether it's a link on WhatsApp that I will send to you or something that I'll post on ARC, but just look out for that. So this is not for us, this is for the other module. So we're looking at W, which is this one here. So we have a minimum of 4 ICE tasks, as you know, with assignment 1, assignment 2, as well as an examination. So far, the module outline is saying that the examination is closed book, which is as per normal examination. Sometimes what they do is they would give you a case study in advance. And they would allow you time to go over and read through the case study, because this case study can sometimes be 2 to 3 pages long. So it does eat up your time in an examination. So it allows you time to, get familiar with it, understand where different elements are, etc. So you come prepared in for the examination. But I'm pretty sure during the course of semester, I will have more insight on whether they are allowing a case study to be given in advance. Okay, so we've got assignment 1, assignment 2. I think I went over more or less the brief synopsis of what the expectations are for the assignment. One more thing that I would want to add in is the rubric. I will go over very strongly over the rubric in your national support sessions prior to an assignment. A lot of times what happens is when students see something for 10 marks, they think one sentence or 2 lines is enough. It's not enough. So it's breaking it down into what is the expectation from that 10 marks, how much of it is going towards theory, how much of it is going towards application. So in my first year of lecturing, I was also quite new. I didn't go over things as in depth with students. And then in my second year, I saw how the PACEs and the support sessions actually helped the students so much that they were doing a lot better because they understood how to answer the questions. So this is what I'm going to do as well going into this semester. PACEs, rubrics, explanations, national support sessions, all of that will be done. Okay. Okay, so we have 12 contact sessions, and I think in our PACER so far, I've got about 12 there, but that's including some pre-recorded sessions as well. But don't be afraid of time. I will never ever not finish a module with you. So even if it means having to do extra recorded sessions, 100% I'll do it, just so that we meet the time frames. But the way that we have it set out now is absolutely perfect, and we'll be able to finish everything there. Okay. And then the last portion of it is your learning unit breakdown. So in totality, there's 6 learning units in this module, which we obviously spaced out over the semester. You are in this class, so you can see compared to actual contact sessions, they have up to 6 sessions to learn just this one learning unit. You probably have 2 if you're lucky. So there's a lot of work that you have to do on your own, sitting with your module outline, sitting with your textbooks, sitting with the lecture slides that I provide to you. There's a lot that you have to do on your own because it is a contact session. But as I said, I'm here as support. So if you ever get stuck with anything. Okay, so the first one we're going to go over is strategic management. So going through things like Mintzberg designs, Potter's strategies, Potter's forces, all of these are sort of theoretical terminologies that coincide with how different supply chain processes are used in business. So I try to bring it down to character and show exactly how we would use this in the workplace. Okay, different principles of supply chain, looking at the evolution, how supply chain started from where it was to where it is, how machinery and tech has actually developed supply chain, how it's benefited businesses, sort of the functionality of supply chain in different businesses as well. Okay, then we have our learning unit 2, which is all to do with warehousing. So regional, urban, and site level context in terms of warehousing. Where are you situated from a business? Where's your logistics situated? Where's your supplier situated? Where's your customer situated? Basically, what just makes sense. So going through all 3 of these, and I'd like to do all 3 of this in one session because it just makes sense. But if we don't get a chance, we'll probably do it over 2 because it does help to understand what regional is and then the difference between regional and urban, and then how site level also impacts. So this is a full-on warehousing and more from a location perspective, what we're looking at. Then we have planning for demand, and this is fully to do with forecasting. Forecasting is a huge deal in supply chain. You will see you'll have an assignment that has to do with forecasting. In your examination, you'll have forecasting. You'll even have an ICE task featuring forecasting because forecasting is not like what's it, trigonometry, where you learn it in high school and then you never use it again. Forecasting is used in the workplace in every single business that you can think of. So it's basically trying to drill it into you. You know that that habitual mindset. If you keep repeating it over and over again, you tend to remember. So this is where forecasting comes into play. How does forecasting work? What does it entail? What's the different processes, the methods, the software, that sort of elements, okay, that we're looking at. We're obviously doing it from a very basic um, level. However, we will take it on further as we go along through the learning unit. Then we got procurement management. So a lot of big businesses have procurement departments or purchasing departments where they make decisions on which suppliers to use or which suppliers to buy from, what's the budget, what is their spending patterns, what is the savings that they need, etc. So we'll go through all of these things from a purchasing element. And then the last one is operations management, which is one of my favorites. So looking at the full transformation process from a goods versus services, looking at operations management. I'll take you through what an operations management looks like in the logistics industry, because it's the industry that I'm currently in, just so that you have a very high level overview of what to expect. And then the fourth learning unit is managing and distributing of your inventory. So this is inventory management completely, the different inventory systems that we would use, the role that the inventory plays in different businesses, and how do we as businesses in various industries actually use inventory differently. So that's what I would like to bring to that session. And then we have warehousing operations and processes. Um, it's sort of to create a whole big area or highlight a whole avenue of how warehousing actually works, right from an inbound to a receiving, to a storage, to an outbound, to a dispatch, what systems are used from a warehouse management side, what is cross-docking, how does e-commerce fit in it. So I have a whole lot of different stories to tell you in this theme. Okay, because it's something that is very undervalued, but it's something that you look at on a daily basis. If you order from Takealot, or if you order from Amazon, or all of any e-commerce or online company, it's how their warehouse operation and processes actually work. We get the shipment after we order it, but what is the process of it getting to you? So that's what I want to explain. Okay, and then we have a full distribution management system, so different modes of transportation, ASC, road, pipeline, um, uh, what is sort of the most feasible, what is the quickest, what is the slowest. So we're going to go through all of those different characteristics. And then we have Learning Unit 5, which is creating your best practices for a sustainable and a competitive supply chain. So here we're going to go over plan, do, check, act, which is our PDCA cycle. So you can see different themes and terminologies are coming in. Lean supply chain. So if you are in a supply chain field right now, you will understand how lean is such a big factor in this economy, in this business era, where everyone wants to go as lean as possible or try and be as sustainable as possible, looking at different supply chains, whether they're lean or agile, and using a concept that we call Six Sigma in a business or in a supply chain. Okay, and then we're going to go through the last one, which is one of my favorites. It is relationship management, because you can hear I come from a commercial background. The whole relationship management, whether it's from a supplier or from a customer, what's the different approaches? How does the relationships differ? How can you best improve it? What sort of systems or models or processes can you then use? Okay, so, and then the last one is ethics, which is predominantly theory. There's nothing more that I can teach you about ethics besides what exists and what we should follow. Everything else is based off your own personal value system. Okay, so that basically takes us through to the module outline. Is there any questions for me? Is there something you want to see differently? Can I maybe add it in into one of the sessions, or you just want to go through the motion and then we can make recommendations as we go along. I'm getting a lot of thumbs up, which is great. So I think we're going to park our session here. I obviously didn't want to overload you on the very first session. So at least we created a good base and a path. I will put in all three documents. Actually, I already shared the module outline, the PACER and the introduction onto ARC as well. I will then post the recording on YouTube. I will then share the YouTube link all tonight. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always post it on our WhatsApp group. But for next week's session, so the 19th of February, I did, obviously, I think all of us saw it on the timetable. It is not part of this meeting request. I will share a separate meeting request only for next week, Thursday. Okay, so it's only valid for next week, Thursday. Please just use that link, but I will stipulate it once I create that meeting request. Okay, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening, and we will chat next week again. Goodbye.